urge to think of our senses as being powerful or good is strong because first, that's all we have. Second, we like having nice thoughts about ourselves rather than miserable, depressing thoughts. So we're prone to walk around celebrating, for example, the power of sight or of taste or of smell. When, of course, when you really want to smell something, you bring a dog and they smell. Their nose smells much better than your nose smells. I was going to say the dog smells better than you, but that would insult you. So their nose smells. So we already know that our senses are feeble, and we reach to other creatures in the animal kingdom, cite them as having better examples of our sight, of our taste, of our smell. But little did people know much before a century and a half ago that our sense of vision is limited only, as Richard said, to the colors of the rainbow. And it's quite extraordinary to realize that, for example, beyond red, there's something called infrared. And beyond infrared, there are microwaves. And beyond microwaves, there are radio waves. Go the other direction, we go beyond violet, ultraviolet. Beyond that, X-rays, gamma rays. Energy goes up as you approach gamma rays, with dramatic consequences if you have gamma ray exposure, by the way. Of course, we all know you turn big, green, and ugly, as the Hulk had experienced. But the point is, the visible light part of that spectrum is a tiny slice, and the universe doesn't only communicate with us through that slice, as we had taken for granted for so long. Most of the history of the telescope, which is itself an extension of our eyes, extended the power of our eyes, but not the range of our eyes. And it wasn't until we first understood maybe we're missing something in the 19th century. The 20th century came decade by decade, new telescopes in each newly discovered band of light. And only then did we learn about black holes in the universe or remarkable, violent forces operating in the centers of galaxies discovered by radio telescopes. So, yeah, we're practically blind out there, and it's humbling, by the way, but that's the whole point of the methods and tools of science, to not only extend your senses in the domain in which you understand, but to take them to places they've never been before. On top of that, we have methods and tools that detect things that are not even extensions of your senses. You have no clue what the magnetic field is around your body right now. You have no clue whether or not you're being bathed in ionizing radiation right now. You'll eventually figure that out as limbs start falling off, but while it's happening, you actually don't know. And there are other things that are more subtle, like polarization of light. So when I think of the scientist's toolkit, especially the astrophysicist's toolkit, it's all about how many different senses can you bring to bear, technological senses can you bring to bear on decoding the universe. One of the things we discovered, now getting to your horizon question, we look around the universe and it looks like we're in the center. What an ego-supporting concept that is. You can either go around continuing to think that, feeling good about yourself. When you're a ship at sea and you look out, your horizon in every direction is the same distance from you. Depends on your height above the sea level. That's why ship decks are high. They see farther beyond the curvature of the earth than you do just standing on the main deck. So your horizon is a perfect circle centered on you. You can conclude that is the extent of the entire earth, or you can imagine, suppose I'm in another spot. Well, that horizon is still true for whoever happens to be in the middle of it, but now you've moved to a new place, and you will see a horizon corresponding with that spot. And so everybody has a horizon at sea, yet no one at any time is thinking that that's the full extent of the ocean or the full extent of the earth. And so therein is the value to us, not only of the methods and tools of science, but also of the language of the universe that we call mathematics. Remarkable thing, a point first advanced by Eugene Wigner, that math has an unreasonable utility in the universe since we just invented it out of our heads. You don't discover math under a rock, as you might find a grubs. You invent it out of whole cloth. Yet, it empowers us to provide accurate and predictive descriptions and understandings of the universe. And so what comes of this is you learn to abandon your senses. You train yourself to abandon your senses because you recognize how they can fool you into thinking one thing is true that is not. You abandon them. You use your tools that do the measuring to say, okay, that's the reality. Then you make a mathematical model of that you can manipulate logically, because math is all about the logical extension of one point to another, and then you can make new discoveries about the world that, frankly, you'll just have to get used to. No longer do you have the right is not the right word, but no longer do you have the, no longer are you justified saying that idea in science is not true because it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So nobody cares about your senses.
Yes.
Your senses came out, forget the Serengeti, just growing up. As a kid, something's in your hand, you let go of it, it falls. You tip a glass, water spills. You are assembling a rule book for how nature works in the macroscopic world. The microscope takes you smaller than that, the telescope takes you bigger, and other laws of physics manifest themselves in those regimes that you have no life experience reckoning. And so it's math that allows you to take these incremental steps beyond the capacity of your senses and perhaps even the capacity of your mind. Yes, it's the mind that's taking the steps, but your mind was not deducing that by just looking at the world with your senses. It was helped out. It was aided by these tools that we invented. We, as an astrophysicist, we've seen throughout time the hubris that comes with any discovery that gets made, or the hubris that prevents the acceptance of a discovery that might demote your sense of self from whatever you previously imagined it to be. Among them is, where is Earth? Is it the center of all things? No, it's not even a significant planet in orbit around an ordinary star in the corner of a ordinary galaxy, one of 100 billion galaxies in the universe. And so here we are saying, let's search for life in the universe, intelligent life like us. Well, who are we to say that we're intelligent? I mean, I pose that not as a joke question, but it's a very serious question. We define ourselves to be intelligent in ways that no other creature can rival. Okay, now what do we credit that intelligence to? So you look at the genome, and let's take the chimp. I guess that's a really close relative of ours. And we have, high 90s% identical, indistinguishable DNA. And the chimp does not build the Hubble telescope, and the chimp does not compose symphonies. So we must then declare that everything we say about us that is intelligent is found in that 1.5% difference in DNA. Is that a fair statement to make? Okay. Let me invert that question. If the genetic difference between humans and chimps is that small, maybe the difference in our intelligence is also that small. Maybe the difference between stacking boxes and reaching a banana, putting up an umbrella when it rains, whatever are these rudimentary things a chimp does that the primatologists roll them forward and boast about, which of course our toddlers can do, maybe the difference between that and the Hubble telescope is as small as that difference in DNA. Because I pose the question, suppose there was another life form on Earth or elsewhere, that in that same sort of vector, that 1.5% difference we are to chimps, suppose they were 1.5% different from us. They would then roll the smartest of us in front of their humatologists and say, there's Hawking, oh, this one is slightly smarter than the rest of them because he can do astrophysics calculations in his head. Like little Timmy over here.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we're just blithering idiots in the presence of even a trivially smarter species than us. So therefore, who are we to even assert that Number one, we are intelligent, and we're looking for others at least as intelligent as us out there to talk to. By the way, is there any other species on Earth that we can talk to? Can we have a conversation with a chimp? That has nearly identical DNA, and I don't think we can actually say, hey, what movie do you want to see tonight? You don't have that conversation with a chimp. Yet somehow we want to believe that an alien on another planet that's not even based on DNA, and even if it is, it's not nothing like us, that we could communicate with it.
Yeah.